Traveling with a lioness. During her lifetime, little Tyke traveled more than 100,000 miles with us in our cars. When we stopped at motels, we always got a large room with two double beds, one for little Tyke and one for my wife and myself. We had learned that if little Tyke were placed in a bed in another room, every few minutes she got up and came into our room to see if we were still there. Wherever we went, she worried that we might leave her. She seemed to sense from the first that we were her sole benefactors, and that if we left her, she would be lost alone. Strangely enough, wherever we stopped, we were always welcome to return to our unusual. We were always welcome to return with our unusual comrade. As we traveled hither and yon, with this huge lioness sitting on the seat beside us, hanging shoulders and paws out of the window as we rode, we found it difficult to avoid the gathering of inquisitive crowds, or to carry on the business for which we had come. I enjoyed showing her off as much as she enjoyed electrifying the wide-eyed crowds who instantly gathered around wherever we stopped. We purchased a sedan delivery, a light panel body mounted on the light frame with springs of the sedan chassis and with one small window in the back. This afforded much privacy for little Tyke and allowed us to go on about our business as she slept. It was in this car that we visited a friend in the eastern part of the state. We decided to spend the night, and here in her new car, little Tyke learned that there was security from prying eyes and peaceful rest like that of her bed at home. We seldom cultivated the friendship of folks who did not like animals. So, needless to say, wherever we went, little Tyke was as welcome as we were. On one occasion, these friends lived in a country, and one extra bedroom was all they had. Very conveniently, when the evening grew late, we put little Tyke to bed in the car on a thick, soft mattress. A few hours later, as one of the other guests left, I decided to take a last look at little Tyke. With shocked surprise, I noticed the rear door of the car was open, and little Tyke was nowhere in sight. I had failed to remove a very small catch in the inside of the door, and she had rubbed against it, unlatched the door, and flung it wide open. My thoughts raced, for I remembered that within 100 yards of the house were a busy highway and railroad tracks. With my flashlight in hand, I ran into the night calling, while the other visitor took refuge in the house. There was no familiar grunting answer. I did not hear feline footsteps in the soft earth. I turned and saw the barn door swing open. I hardly dared to look as I turned the light switch inside the doorway. With a sigh of relief, I gazed upon that confident creature, pacing back and forth behind a long row of horses and cattle, like a general inspecting his guard. A bewildered hen flew, cackling crazily, from a pole in the manger. As I sat down and patted this grand creature, who knew she had committed no wrong, on our trip home the next day, we laughed heartily as we related the experience. I had a similar trip with a friend before we purchased little Tyke's car. This friend and I started on a long trip with little Tyke occupying the rear seat. After some hours, little Tyke decided she was lonely back there, and she proceeded to pour her 350 pounds between us in the front seat. My friend and I tipped the scales at more than 200 pounds each. So, needless to say, a few miles of the packed front seat was more than enough for my friend, especially with this happy, affectionate lioness turning and twisting to lick his sweating and anxious brow. He managed somehow to climb over it and slide into the rear seat, and he smiled with well-earned satisfaction as he wiped her saliva from his cheek. His satisfaction was short-lived, however, for she yearned for his affection. She forced him to clamber back and forth in numerous escapes as we drove more than 250 miles through the mountains.